All right, so we've gotten everyone out of the waiting room, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So, good afternoon. My name is Brittany Clarkson. I am one of the health education specialists for the Office of Health Promotion. And today, for our lunch and learn, we will be covering the topic of the adult entertainment industry and how that relates to healthy sexuality. So, a very unique and different topic for our office for those of you who have attended our lunch and learns in the past. But I'm really excited about it. So, leading our discussion today is going to be Viviani. She is a counselor at the Student Counseling Center. She sees clients and she has been a great part of our KISS Week thus far. So for KISS Week, all of our events have been focused on keeping it safe and sexy. And so Viviani is going to lead us in our discussion today. If you have any questions, you can please feel free to use the chat box, enter them in the chat. If you would like to stay anonymous, you can open up your chat box and where it says to, you can change that to either Viviani or myself. And that way only we will see your questions. So if you would like to stay anonymous in your questions, you can use that feature to send private messages. So without further ado, take it away, Viviani.
Hey, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here today. I am definitely super excited to talk about porn, to talk about, oh, yeah, I said porn. Yes, that's how I'm going to say it. I'm super excited about to talk about it with you all. When we were kind of like discussing how should we have this conversation, I had 275 ideas about amazing PowerPoints with amazing pictures that I could use. But then I realized it's probably going to be much better if we just have a conversation, if we talk about those things that are in our mind when we think about porn. So, what did I do? I asked a whole bunch of people, what is it that you would like to know about porn? And they told me, like things that they think, questions that they have. And I have a bowl with a whole bunch of questions. And the way we are going to roll is kind of like I'm going to pick them and we're going to talk a little bit about that. It would be awesome if we could have a conversation. But I understand that, like, sometimes we're just not in the mood. And if you are not in the mood to have a whole conversation, you can just kind of like maybe write down your question or notice how you're feeling about the things that we're talking about here. Sounds good? In my mind, I hear you all saying, yes, sounds awesome. So the way, thank you, Megan. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. It feels so warm inside. I'm gonna put hearts. It would be so cool if it was like Instagram when you're going on a live that you can put the hearts going up. I love that. So what we're gonna do is one thing that I think it's very important that we all are on the same page is the idea that we are trying to have this conversation from a sex positive place. And what does it mean that we're trying to have this conversation from a sex positive place? It means that we are going to accept the belief that each person's body belongs to that person. And whatever they do to that body, it's up to them. Therefore, there will be no shaming, there will be no judging, there will be no pathologizing. Come as you are. That's kind of like where we're going to get started. So, when we talk about sex, when I say something about sex, about porn, this is where I'm coming from. And I hope you were there too. Shall we get started? So, the first question that like I really, really, really like was kind of like someone was like, is it normal that I watch porn? Can you see it? What do you guys think? Is it normal that someone watches porn? How do you feel about it? Raise your hand if you want to say something with audio or tap on the chat because I'm ready to give you a spoiler. Yay! Yeah, there is a whole bunch of people that saying it's normal, it's normal. Hell yeah, it is normal, right? So, yes, it's very normal. There is nothing wrong with you. I think that most people is very curious about sexuality. Um, Most people are kind of, and then porn is free and it's everywhere. So it makes sense that you would go, oh, I'm going to watch porn. But now I would also challenge a little bit. What is it that you're saying when we saying normal? Normal everywhere, but especially in sexuality, every time we say something is normal or not normal, what we are saying is that is it happens from a context of kind of like it's meant to be white, heterosexual, male, monogamous, for procreation, right? So kind of like if you were not one of those things here, you're immediately not normal. So instead of thinking about is it normal, we could think about is it healthy? Is it kind of like something that can kind of like works with my feelings of like well-being? So that is kind of like the frame that we're going to go about. But because normal is a word that we use all the time, here's how what I'm going to say. What is not normal? Like, what is it kind of like when it comes to porn, when it comes to my sexuality, um, what is normal? Everything is normal except non-consensual and unwanted pain. So if you lack consent and if you are causing or receiving unwanted pain or harm, those are the two things where we're going to say it's not normal. And when we're talking about lack of consent, of course, that like pedophilia and sex with minors, all of that's there. So keep that in mind that like when we're talking about what's normal with sexuality, oh, I got turned on by this or by that. Is that normal? Everything is normal. The only two things that are not normal are lack of consent and if it's causing or if you are receiving unwanted pain or harm. Sounds good? Okay, let's get another question. Oh, I'm gonna leave that one for later. I am ashamed of the porn I watch. Wow, it goes very well with what you're saying, right, Brittany? Like, what is it? Like, there is nothing to be ashamed of. Why do you guys think that, like, some people are ashamed of the porn that they watch? What are kind of like the porn that they are watching, do you think, that's making them feel ashamed? Any ideas? When they watch anime, what else? I think people that are kind of like have like fetish, people that are kind of like watching stuff about, I don't know, someone having intercourse with someone's armpit. Yes, yes, Megan. Anything that it strays from socially acceptable, anything that it's kind of like their friends wouldn't be into, if they're are in a very strict and religious household, those are all going to be the things that they're going to inform that feeling of shame. One thing that kind of like most people are very ashamed of when it comes to kind of like watching porn, the types of porns that they watch are those that are going to be kind of like part of like the BDSM or kinky or rough sex. And those are kind of like those things that are kind of like really connected with the things that they fantasize about. And again, there is nothing wrong, but the feelings of shame, they are connected with the context, right? How were you brought up? How do you think about sex? When you think about sex, do you have an idea that it's kind of like it's supposed to be a penis going inside a vagina, inside a house of people who are married and they're hoping to have kids? If that's how you grew up, it's literally going to blow your mind and you're going to feel ashamed and you're going to feel judged. But if instead, if you think that it's kind of like our sexuality is so diverse, our entire bodies are sexual, the world is sexual, and people vary. And as long as I have consent, as long as I consent, and as long as there is no unwanted pain to any of the parts involved, that's healthy? Would you be ashamed? Uh, think about it. Does anyone have any other question or reaction, or should we get another question here? I want to just kind of like honor what Michaela said here. That is kind of like if you live in a very strict and religious household, it will definitely have an impact on how you're feeling. One thing that it's noticed like even in the research, is kind of like the more strict and constrictive is someone's worldview, uh, the worse they will feel about themselves. Even when they say that it's like, oh my gosh, I have a porn addiction. And sometimes it's not even about the amount of porn or how often do you watch porn, but because it's not aligned to your values. Okay, Tristan, go ahead. Do you want to say something? I don't know. If you are, unmute your mic. Good. Next question. Is porn going to ruin my relationship? What do you think? Do you think porn is going to ruin people's relationships? It could. Hmm. I think that it's kind of like porn is not going to do anything to your relationship. The way you use porn and the way your relationship works may be affected by your use of porn. Uh, it's not really about the kind of like, oh, I'm watching porn immediately. My relationship is going to fail. It's going to be horrible and we're not going to be happy ever again. It's kind of like, how is it that porn shows up in your relationship, right? There is some people that will use porn as a way to kind of like actually spice things up in the relationship. Sometimes in the relationship, you have a fantasy and you don't really know how to talk about it, or you shy, you don't know how to communicate. There's some people that they say, hey babe, here's what we could do, right? And the same as kind of like people are saying here, like um, sometimes you can create connection. You can kind of like, it's one more shared things that you can do together. um, but if you are um, in a relationship, right, and then it's kind of like a thing where someone mentioned here, right, that it's kind of like, oh, if I'm kind of like to the point of addiction, and then we're going to talk a little bit about that. There is a question about that of someone saying that's addiction. What's gonna, the way that porn will or will not ruin your relationship is it promoting health? Is it impacting in a negative way? Is it something that it's kind of like you feel ashamed of? All of those things are going to have an impact in your relationship. One question that I got is kind of like with someone saying that, what if we are uncomfortable with our partners watching porn? What do you guys think? So kind of like if you are in a relationship, um, and you feel uncomfortable with your partner watching porn, what do you do? What's up with that? One thing that I'd always like to think is, when you are uncomfortable with your partner, communicate, Brittany. Awesome. I think that one thing to keep in mind is kind of like, what is it that's making you uncomfortable, right? Have that conversation, figure it out, but also notice for yourself, what is it that makes you uncomfortable? There is a whole bunch of people out there that feel uncomfortable with their partner watching porn, because what they're really uncomfortable is with the idea that their partner are attracted, like to other people. Um, and therefore they don't think that they can tolerate, right? And they would rather live with and within the bubble of the illusion that like their partners are only attracted to them. Well, that's not true. Um, we can be attracted to a whole bunch of different people, like I could be in a very, very, very happy relationship and I see someone in a kind of like sexually exciting context, I'm going to have a reaction. But it's not the attraction that is the basis of my relationship, right? It's not even the attraction only that is the basis. It's not even kind of like the reaction that my body is having only that is the basis of my relationship or my sexual relationship. There is me liking it. There is me wanting that other person. There is the context in which we are, right? So I think it's really important for you to notice what is it that you feel uncomfortable when you think about your partner not being when you think about your partner like watching porn, do you want to watch porn together? Would it be different like if you're both watching porn? Do you feel uncomfortable with them watching porn, or do you feel uncomfortable with the type of porn that they're watching? Are you judging that? Those are some of the things for you to keep in mind as you think about what is it actually that's making you uncomfortable. Um, Another question that goes hand in hand with that is I am afraid my partner will leave me if they find out that I think that like if they find out that like you watch porn. So let's pretend that we are in a relationship and it's kind of like closed, monogamous relationship, and one partner like finds out that like their partner is watching porn. They like, yeah, I do watch porn. How would you feel if that was you? If you found out that your partner actually watches porn? Think about it. Eh, okay, I love it. Jake, that like I'm mad that they didn't watch it with me. Good. I think that like that can be a way that you can connect with your partner. Someone saying, "Hey, I'm okay. I admit that everyone has. I would be fine as long as it doesn't affect our relationship again." Um, is the porn something that it's kind of like has an impact on you as a couple? Does it impact the things, the way you're doing things in your life? Does the porn helps you or create a separation between you guys? Does the porn that you watch kind of like you watch porn and you get energized and then like that energy shows up in your sexual relationship with your partner? Or is it something that you literally watch porn and you just want what you see in porn and it's not really what your partner is into? That's when it's going to be a problem, right? But if you are in a relationship where for some reason you think that it's like, hey, I don't think it's okay for my partner to watch porn, maybe you should have that conversation. Or if you know that your partner is not okay with the whole idea of porn, maybe you should have a conversation. I think the conversation, the communication, it's gonna be the most important piece. When the person phrases it, even like this, I'm afraid my partner will leave me if they find out. I think that secrecy, that's an energy that's very dangerous in a relationship. But like, what is it that's causing that secrecy? Like it's because there was a rule that you guys wouldn't do it, and then you are, or are you ashamed of what you're doing? Are you ashamed of being judged? Because if on one hand, I think that it's kind of like porn is a reality, it's everywhere, literally. On the other hand, there is still a lot of judgment for some sectors of society. Is it your own judgment showing up? Think about it and have a conversation. Oh, I love this one here. Um, I think porn is racist and misogynistic. What do you think? What do you think about it? Kind of like thinking about the porn that you've seen, thinking about what you've heard about porn. Um, How do you feel about like that idea that is like, I think it's racist, I think it's misogynistic. Another thing that we hear a lot is people talking about uh, people talking a lot about the stereotypes, right? So, what are some of the yeah, it plays to tropes and fetishizes some people. What do you think are some of the stereotypes that you see, and what are some of the things that you see that like we can say like, oh, that's racist, you know? And what are the things that we see that it's kind of like misogynistic? I think one thing that I see is kind of like the representation of like South Asian women as very submissive, right? Another thing, it's kind of like the porn industry always shows a lot of like black men as like hypersexualized, you know, like in their penis is this big. Um, Black women are normally aggressive and angry and dominant. What are some of the other kind of like stereotypes that we see there? I think the whole like interracial sex, it's kind of like playing to the idea that that shouldn't happen, that's forbidden and it's wrong. So it's sold like that as something that's almost bizarre to see. Another thing that kind of like people talk a lot and we notice kind of like yeah, the black performers are beasts and the um yeah, like a lot of white women as innocent or childlike was denied them, neutralizes their complexity, right, as well. And I think that like even the idea of kind of like you when you have there people that, you know, like even when you have those broader conversations of kind of like raw sex and everything, it's kind of like the women, they are there literally as an object, right? There is no whatsoever, there is no way that kind of like those women are seen as human beings. So that's the point in which I think it's really cool. And then you go like, should I watch it? Should I not watch it? Well, first of all, there is all types of porns out there. One that's really cool is feminist porn. What's feminist porn? You ask me. Feminist porn is the porn that it's made through a feminist perspective. And that idea is that they understand that the industry, right, the porn industry, is an industry that's created to satisfy the needs of the white male gaze. So notice that, like, even kind of like if you watch movies and everything, it's everything. It's from the male perspective. It's kind of like it's meant to be seen by men, and it kind of like reifies and kind of like consolidates all of those stereotypes in which like women and people of color are not considered at all. So the first thing for you is to notice that there is lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots types of porn out there. Not only mainstream porn that is gonna have like those ideas, those problems, but there is like a lot of like indie, you know, like independent feminist porn out there that are gonna kind of like see all of the individuals as whole persons, right? Another thing that is kind of like that's really interesting when you think about the feminist porn, the indie porn, the trans porn, the other things that are out there, they're kind of like bringing into the conversation those things that stay out. Because here's a piece of kind of like porn literacy. We cannot watch porn, any type of porn, and think that that's reality. That's entertainment. That's a movie, right? We have to zero into that. That is like, that's a movie. It's not a documentary. It's not reality. Since it's not reality, it's kind of like a superhero movie. Everything is exaggerated. everything, even like the people who are cast to play in those movies, like especially like mainstream porn, like that's exaggerated. So kind of like breasts are gonna be huge, penises are gonna be huge, vagina is gonna be kind of like hyper lubrified. So kind of like it is a fantasy. So that's the one very important thing that you have to understand. The other thing when you kind of like go into porn, and I think it's cool because like this was another comment that I thought was so awesome. I think porn can help me learn a lot about sex. Yes, however, um, so the understanding that it's kind of like it's not real, right? Understanding that it's not bad. Also understanding that there is a whole bunch of things there that it's just not how it should play out in real life. So even when we are looking kind of like, if on one hand watching porn can be really helpful, especially kind of like if you have some fantasies and you want to see how they play out, you have to understand that not all porn are going to be exactly like it's not a tutorial. It's not kind of like it's not an educational material with the purpose of like educate you to do that in real life. I'm going to give you an example. So let's pretend that one of your fantasies is that you really like the idea of like rough sex, right? That's kind of like what you're into. Either you're a guy or either you are a woman, this is your idea. Like you're very into rough sex and you've never done it, right? So you go and you watch porn and you get there, and if you are a guy, the first thing you're gonna see is kind of like the dude tossing the girl and then grabs her hair and do everything really rough, and you watch that and you get super turned on and do you if that's what you like, but then you go, I'm ready, I'm gonna go and talk to my like partner and I'm gonna do all of that. What can go wrong in that scenario? What you guys think? Like, I am into rough sex, and I watched a porn movie about that, and now I'm gonna go. Hmm. Yeah, like you can take things so far. You may not just have a safe word. Someone could really get hurt. You know what? Because you know what's really missing? Yes, 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 Brittany. That like they're trained actors. It comes with a specific skill set. And there was a whole entire part of the conversation that didn't happen, but will happen in a feminist porn movie, which is the idea of like, let's talk about consent, right? Let's talk about, hey, do you, are you okay with this? Uh, what's our safe word for like when it's kind of like that's too far, I don't want to go that far. So see how kind of like you cannot look at porn as like an education thing, like it is interesting, right? It can help you like, ooh, that's how in real life, but you need to be able to look at that and really understand that it's like, oh, there is a whole bunch of things here that are missing, right? So it's kind of like having that like literacy of kind of like when making kind of like a critique of what's going on there, because some things are not going to be there. Some things are just not going to be there. The same way that it's kind of like you see people having sex and they can bend like a pretzel, and then you want to do that yourself, and you may not be able to do that yourself because those are actors. Because even like for one, like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, like a movie of kind of like 15 minutes, sometimes they literally had kind of like several takes and they cut and they edit, and there you are, the most perfect curated sex of someone's life. Except it's not real, except it's not how it plays out in real life. Uh, I will say I see someone like some people are talking about and asking about like where can I find some quality feminist porn. There are some sites out there that you can kind of like if you Google, like it's gonna show you. Um So kind of like the idea is kind of like I'm gonna watch porn just like what Brittany said, like for inspiration, not necessarily for instruction. It's not something that is kind of like it's gonna I'll have to do it step by step. That's not a cookie recipe, and it's important that you keep that in mind. It's important that you keep in mind that like some of the porn videos out there, even like one thing that is kind of like really interesting is kind of like some people have like some fantasies and they watch porn and porn video about kind of like rape, whatever. That's not really rape in the real world. When someone is kind of like playing with those fantasies of what they're doing is power and submission, and they're in control the entire time. So keep that in mind as well. Another thing that's really important, another thing that I learned is kind of like someone said, I think porn can help me learn a lot about sex. Well, I agree. And this person, like they were talking, saying, like, I think I can learn a lot. And I think I can do a lot, like with my partner. I watched this movie where this happened, and that happened. And I can't wait to try it with my partner because I really think they're going to like it. You know what's the most effective way to know your partner is going to like something? Ask them, listen to their words. That's the most effective way. So you can watch porn to get like inspired, but you cannot assume that's like, there I go. I'm gonna go there and try that with my partner. You really should focus on, okay, I'm gonna ask my partner, hey, I saw this. Would you like to try this? You can't assume. You can kind of like impose that. The porn cannot be a substitute for kind of like real conversations and creating intimacy in your relationship. The last question I have here is this one here. I think I may be addicted to porn. Many people feel that way. And the things that they're going to notice when they're feeling that way is when they're kind of like the porn use are out of control. Uh, they kind of like they can't help kind of like limit their use of porn. And it's kind of like a little bit of a cycle of kind of like I feel so excited, I feel so hot, I feel so stimulated, and then afterwards I feel really guilt, shameful, and I feel like depressed. And that's kind of like taking over all of the other things that you have to do in your life. If you're feeling like that, it's definitely time for you to look for help, to talk to someone. Help is available. Many people can get down that like hole when they start to use porn to meet other needs. So, what is it that you're feeling? Are you feeling lonely? Are you feeling like you're that sad, and then you're gonna do porn? And that it's not the way to meet that need, and that's when you get started. The last thing that I would like to say to you is keep in mind that what you see in porn uh, are amazing fantasies. Not all fantasies should be played out in real life. If you want to kind of like, if you saw something in porn and you want to try in real life, you ask yourself, do I have consent? Is it gonna like create unwanted pain or harm to any of the parts involved? Is it legal? Some people they will every now and then have some thoughts about like having sex, kind of like with underage children, blah blah blah. The thought popping up, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you find yourself having that thought often, it's time for you to look for help, because if you keep finding yourself fantasizing about that, it's time for you to address it. And the other thing is, if you go online and look for kind of like images of like children, underage children, that's illegal. That's a crime. And the possession of those materials are going to take you straight to jail. That's not fun. You're not going to like it. Don't do it. That's it. I'm all done, Brittany. Did I do good on time today?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Viviani. That was really, really interesting and very good information. I hope everyone um, got a lot out of this discussion. And if you do have more questions, or you feel like you would like to be able to ask your questions in an even more anonymous um, arena, tomorrow evening at 6:30 we are having our Sex in the Dark event. So this will be a Zoom webinar, so it's a little bit different from a Zoom meeting. You won't be able to see anybody except for our speakers. So we have three panelists who will be answering your questions, any questions that you may have about sex, sexual health, or healthy relationships. And if you have more questions about porn, then you can bring those to Sex in the Dark as well. So I just put the link to register for Sex in the Dark in the chat. So we hope you join us for that event tomorrow evening at 6. And then before I let everyone go, I'm going to launch a poll. So definitely please feel free to leave the meeting after you complete the poll. And if you were a winner of one of our meal vouchers for today, you will get an email by the end of the week. So thank you everyone for joining us. Once you're done with the poll, feel free to go ahead and leave the meeting. And thank you, Viviani.
Bye, y'all. It was really fun talking about sex with you all, and I hope we get to do that again really soon. Have a good one.